Okay, so today we're going to be actually taking notes finally on photosynthesis. There's really only a few things you need to know about photosynthesis, and we'll be reviewing those again on Monday, along with our vocab quiz. So I think you guys will be pretty good after that. And we'll practice drawing it out so that you have a good idea of what you need to know. So first off, we have to talk about cell energy includes both photosynthesis and respiration, okay? Photosynthesis is making the energy from the sun, okay? And then respiration is how our bodies then use that energy when we eat plants, etc., in order to give us like actual energy that moves our muscles and that kind of stuff, okay? So energy for living things comes from food, okay? And originally, the energy in food comes from the sun. That is a major concept that you need to know for this unit, okay? All the energy in food comes from the sun. Can we get energy from the sun directly? Besides a tan? No. Okay? So we have to eat other things to get the sun's energy, right? So you see, we have the sun, air, water, soil. The sun and the rain goes on to the producers, which are the plants. The consumers then eat the plants. Some of the consumers eat the other consumers and the producers, okay? And so on and so forth. Organisms that use light energy from the sun to produce food are called autotrophs, okay? An autotroph is, auto means self, okay? So an autotroph is self-feeding or self-eating. Example plants and some microorganisms, some bacteria and protists fall into this category, but mostly when we think of autotrophs, we think of plants, right? Like pineapple, delicious, I think. Pineapple's delicious. What other plants do we eat, like all the time? I always get a protein-style burger In-N-Out, so that's lettuce. Salads. Corn. You guys are very creative this morning. Okay. Organisms that cannot use the sun's energy to make food are called heterotrophs. Hetero means different, okay? So we have to eat different things in order to get our food. So obviously most animals are heterotrophs, and most microorganisms are actually heterotrophs. Right? I would love to think that I could just go stand out in the middle of teas and just soak up all the energy I need, because it would be calorie-free sunshine, and I'm just like, whoo, I'm pumped. I don't have to eat anything. That's not how it works. Unfortunately, those cows taste pretty delicious, protein style at In-N-Out, with cheese. Like, delicious. I love In-N-Out. I apologize. I'm going to dwell on that now. Okay. Cell energy. So cell's usable source of energy is ATP. Your body uses ATP to make things happen. It's like the gas in the car. ATP is to your cells. And ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. And I know you guys colored this on your reading guide, which I'll be passing back to you guys on Monday also. But you can see there's an adenine, a ribose, and 3 phosphates. And it's really those 3 phosphates that give you the energy. And when you break one off, you release energy. And when you put one of those phosphates back on, you store energy. ADP stands for adenosine diphosphate. And this is the lower energy molecule, okay? So all energy in the bonds of compounds are stored in the bonds of compounds, okay? That's what we call chemical energy. It's in between the different bonds of the compounds, and breaking the bond releases the energy. When the cell has energy available to it, it can store this energy by adding the phosphate group back to ADP to produce ATP. So if you look at this analogy, partially charged battery is like ADP. It has a little bit of energy, but not too much. Once you stick that phosphate on, it's like you recharge the battery. Now it's ready to go. It can be used to power some sort of cellular function. ATP is converted into ADP by breaking the bond between the second and third phosphate groups and releasing energy for cellular purposes. Good? So photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process by which the energy of sunlight is converted into the energy of glucose, which is why plants are freaking awesome. They take in sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water, and they turn it into oxygen and glucose, which is really important, right? Because we have to eat that glucose in order to survive. We can't turn the sunlight into our own glucose. We have to eat it by making a salad or going to Chick-fil-A or whatever your favorite place is. I love the Spaghetti Factory also. So photosynthesis occurs in the chloroplast of the plants, okay? So on the test, when it asks what organelle does photosynthesis occur in, you are going to say chloroplasts, right? Chloroplasts. That is why they're green. Convenient. No. So light-absorbing compound is called a pigment, all right? Pigments absorb some wavelengths of light and reflect others. The color our eyes see is the color that the pigment reflects. So plants absorb all the different colors of light except for green. It reflects green, which is why we see green. Bless you. Chlorophyll is the pigment inside the chloroplast that absorbs the light for photosynthesis. Now, usually each year somebody clever will be like, well, what happens when the leaves turn red, right? So as the chlorophyll in the leaves decays, as the leaves are dying in the fall, in autumn, the green color fades and is replaced by the oranges and reds of another pigment. There's just not very much pigment in there usually. The carotenoids, okay? You don't really need to know that, but I'm just letting you guys know because then everyone's always like, what happens to the red leaves, okay? So there are some other pigments in leaves, but they're pretty minuscule and you don't notice them until all the chlorophyll starts to die. Does that make sense? All right. So the general formula for photosynthesis, do you think you need to know this?
Yes.
Heck yes. It's carbon dioxide plus water plus light gives you glucose plus oxygen. What do we need to breathe to survive? Oxygen, right? What do we have to eat to survive? Glucose. If there's no plants, is that going to work out well for us? No. What do we exhale? Carbon dioxide, okay? Carbon dioxide is one of our number one pollutants from industry, from us breathing, from agriculture, you name it, carbon dioxide is a big problem, okay? So plants readily filter that out of our environment for us, which is pretty awesome. This equation, the chemical equation, you will also need to know, okay? So 6 CO2, that's carbon dioxide, plus 6 molecules of water, H2O, plus light, will give you glucose, C6H12O6, and 6 molecules of oxygen gas. All right? You will need to be able to recognize this equation in chemical form on the test. Are we good with that? We can remember this. All right. So if we look at this diagram, here is how photosynthesis takes place. First, the light comes in and it shines on the little green stack of pancakes that we call the thylakoid, okay, and water enters. These two things are part of the light reaction, okay? So this is like step 1, and it is used to make ATP. So in step 1, light and water make ATP. In step 2 of photosynthesis, carbon dioxide enters into the cycle, and the ATP is used as energy to turn that into glucose. So part 2, carbon dioxide and ATP are used to turn into glucose, and the oxygen that came in the water is turned into oxygen gas that we can breathe. So if you can see, those H's in glucose come from the H in water. So that is our chloroplast. You need me to go back a second? Chloroplast. So these are the products at the bottom. That's the result, right? And the reactants are at the top. All good? Okay. So in summary, this is like the slide you should read over and over again about photosynthesis, okay? The light-dependent reaction, which is step 1, is when water is broken down and light energy is stored temporarily as ATP. I'm not as worried if you don't know the NAD pH stuff. It's not really on the test, so you don't need to worry about this. But I want you to know that light and water the energy in the light is stored as ATP. Second step, Calvin cycle. The energy is transferred from the ATP to the organic compound glucose. Does this kind of make sense? Sort of? You get that there's 2 steps to photosynthesis? Step 1 is the light reaction. Step 2 is the Calvin cycle. What was another name for the Calvin cycle? Very good. Light independent. Light independent reaction. Okay? Very good. We're not going to talk about cellular respiration today. We will talk about that next week. So what I'm hoping to do, I think that's it on photosynthesis, so you guys are good there.